This is Sports Drive.
Welcome back into Sports Drive. Once again, I'm your host, Preston Moore. We just talked to West Plains offensive coordinator and senior quarterback Jeff Lyles and Reed Macon. Now joining us to talk a little bit of other stuff going on. Basketball season just getting started up, I mentioned. Joining us to talk about that is director of the Texas Panhandle Sports Network, Mike Roden. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing all right for a Monday. A little wind blown, but other than that, doing pretty good.
Little wind blown, doing all right for a Monday. We have technical issues here in the studio, so it's been all over. It's a Monday. Let's just put it that way. It's very much a Monday.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit of basketball with you. Girls basketball, high school basketball going on, and tonight is a massive rematch that we can all stream on TPSN.
That's right. We kind of behind in the timeline here getting this going, but since football was, we were so preoccupied with football for the last few months, and still have one team playing with West Plains. But yes, we just could not fail to stream the big showdown, and it's really not a showdown. It's an early season matchup of teams that met in that epic game in the third round of the playoffs last year down in Littlefield. Between Amarillo High and Monterey girls, and of course it was the 5 overtime instant classic kind of game.
Yeah.
In fact, still I was thinking about this earlier in the day, just recollecting that magical game of it being the best that I've ever done, seen, honestly, on the high school level. So I don't expect the teams to be quite that good at this point in the season. Both teams have about 8 or 9 games under their belt at this point. And so, but, you look at the Texas Association of Basketball coaches poll, and you've got number 2 ranked Monterey and number 3 ranked Amarillo High. So definitely looking forward to seeing these two teams meet again, and just kind of see how things have changed for each team since last season.
And it's obviously a rematch not only of those two teams, but a rematch of a playoff game.
Yes.
And that's what I think made that game all the more exciting, is not only is it 5 overtimes, not only is it buzzer beater after buzzer beater, game winner or overtime forcer after overtime forcer, but it was also the end of whoever's season was going to be the loser in that game. Obviously ended up being Amarillo High taking the loss in that one, but this rematch certainly has to mean a lot for the Amarillo High team.
I think that's kind of in the back of their mind that, hey, we finally lost that game, and both teams gave it so much. They gave it all they had last year, and it was.
They were gassed.
They were.
I've never seen a game that lasted so long where the players were just so beat.
And the same for the fans and the broadcasters and coaches. I talked with Jeff Williams after that game briefly, and you could just see he was drained of emotion. It was just one of those games that only come around very, very infrequently, and so yeah, I think Amarillo High would love nothing better than to be able to beat Monterey tonight and kind of make a statement in this part of the season. Don't know if they can or not. Amarillo High lost, of course, some key players from that team, Mackenzie Smith in particular, and they definitely will miss her. But it's not like the cupboard is bare at Amarillo High. They just kind of reload every year. And, I don't know if they're legitimately the number 2 ranked team or 3 ranked team in the state. But then again, I don't know that Monterey is legitimately number 2 in the state at this point in the season. Not saying they can't get there, but I was looking at a different poll earlier in the day, and they had the 2 teams ranked somewhat lower, like 7th for one of them, and I don't know, I can't remember what the other 11th maybe of the other one. So that's probably a little more in line with where the 2 teams are. Now, by the end of the season, they definitely could be 2 and 3 again in the state, or number 1 for that matter. So definitely, though, going to be an interesting matchup with all the talent that is still left on both of these teams.
So much talent left on both of those teams, obviously. Lots of great stuff going on for both of them. And again, like you mentioned, the season as a whole, they could obviously build on what they've already built just in these first few games. Great early season matchup. Where can we watch it, and what time tonight, just before we move topics?
Well, 6 o'clock for, and that's usually the way it is in basketball, because the boys play afterward, not the Amarillo not the Monterey boys, but Amarillo High is playing Dumas boys in a game at 7:30 there at the Amarillo High Activity Center. So the girls game will tip off at 6 o'clock, and we will have live stream coverage if you can't be there at TPSNsports.com. And so we'll have all the action, and definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit real quick and talk a little bit of football. Obviously, a couple of area teams left. I'm going to list off some names of some teams for you, and I just want to get your thoughts on maybe any teams that you're keeping an eye on for the rest of the postseason that could maybe make it a couple more rounds. Still in, we have West Plains, Bushland, Canadian, obviously, Stratford. Those last two, obviously, still undefeated on the year. Then Wellington, Sunray, Groover, and Clarendon have just taken over that entire quadrant of the bracket, which is insane at the 2A Division II level. And those four teams will all be playing each other. And then we have Happy and Miami. Out of those teams, you know, who are you kind of looking at, keeping an eye on, of potentially, you know, maybe making a deep playoff run? Obviously, Canadian is the early and the easiest answer. They just defeated early. That's what I just popped up on my screen. I said early. They are the early answer, though. The earliest thing I want to say is Canadian.
Well, obviously, I think everybody anticipates Canadian will meet Gunter in the state semifinals. And so far, based on what I've seen, I've not seen anything that would make me think otherwise in that 3A Division II classification. You know, Wall is a good team in Canadian's region, part of the bracket. But, you know, can they play with Canadian? I don't think so, honestly. You know, but they might make it somewhat closer, but I would still think Canadian would be a very much a favorite to make it to the state semifinals, be the Region 1 champion. And I know a lot of disappointed fans if that doesn't happen, we're Canadian and Gunter in the semifinals. So, but Canadian's playing really, really well so far. But I think the biggest news out of the round this past weekend was Sunray's stunning win over undefeated and top 10 ranked New Home. I honestly thought that the Leopards might be the favorite to win that region. You know, not discounting Sunray, because we all know, who they have behind center, Armando Lujan, and he has just been a phenom for them and continues to be, not only throwing the ball but running the ball as well. And to see how they beat New Home and did it pretty handily, pretty solidly. I tell you what, I know it got Wellington's attention for sure, if it hadn't already. And so that, to me, shapes up to be a mammoth battle there between Sunray and Randall, Sunray and Wellington, rather. I don't know where Randall came from, but Sunray and Wellington. Looking forward to that one for sure. And I think maybe, you know, the winner of that game might be a favorite to win the region, but gosh, other good teams in the bottom part of that bracket or top part.
Right. And the good news that I was about to say about that is, regardless of how things shake out, the Texas Panhandle, our viewing area, we will have someone in the state semifinal at the 2A Division II level. And it's crazy to be able to say that 2 rounds in advance.
And that really bodes well about how good the football is here in the Panhandle in that classification, but in others as well. But, you know, Groover has definitely, I think, made...
I feel like they've looked better each and every
round.
week.
I agree. And I wouldn't discount them at all. And, you know, then you've got Clarendon. We know Lyric Smith is a great player.
I think they've also looked better each and every week.
And so that's going to be another big-time collision. I don't know how you call those matchups, who you favor, but will be really fun to see who comes out and emerges out of that region.
Absolutely. Lots of great stuff going on, Mike. Thank you for joining the show. Once again, remind us where we can watch the basketball game tonight.
First live stream for basketball season on the Texas Panhandle Sports Network tonight at 6, TPSNsports.com, or if you've got the app, we'll have it on the app as well.
Awesome. Thank you once again for joining the show, Mike. Always appreciate it. Always a pleasure. We'll be right back with more Sports Drive right after this break.